Having a healthy sense of confidence is a great motivator when you're learning English. Hi guys, welcome to Fluently Speaking with Bola. My name is Omobolanle Adeshi. Today, we're going to be learning the essence of having confidence when speaking English. Studies show that increasing your confidence in speaking English will not just help you in presentations such as at public gatherings, but it will also help you at work, meaning your boss will have more confidence in your abilities, which could lead to more responsibilities at work and consequently a raise. Your confidence would also make your clients believe more in your brand. You'll be able to convince them more, and by the reason of that, get more patronage. I can't even imagine a marketer who lacks confidence. Like, how do you want to convince your prospective customer or clients to buy into your idea? You can't do it. It is not possible. You have to exude that confidence to convince them and help them to know that your product is the best for them despite all the competitions in the market. So now that you have an understanding of why you need to be confident in speaking English, we're going to be delving into some of the techniques that would help boost your confidence in speaking. Now, I won't be doing this alone. I've got Cyrus Rogers, a communication expert with over 16 years experience in public speaking from South Africa. He will be helping us out in that regard. Hi, Cyrus.
Thank you for having me on, Bola.
So Cyrus, I would like to know, do you ever get nervous when you're in front of a crowd, or have you ever been nervous before and maybe now you've overcome it? How does it work for you?
To answer your question, do I get nervous before public speaking? I definitely do. It's one of those things that happens when you're getting in front of crowds or people. You always feel the sort of butterflies in your stomach and you worry about whether or not you'll do a good job. So it's something that happens regardless of whether or not you're starting from the beginning as somebody who's never done it before or somebody who's done quite a few different events. I've spoken at like massive conferences in the past and it's been the same. It doesn't matter who it's for. It could be for a family function. You sort of get those nerves. So yeah, I do get nervous.
Interesting. So tell us about your journey into the world of public speaking. How did it go, or how did it start?
So my journey to becoming a public speaker is also quite an interesting one, and it started quite young. I did speech and drama when I was in junior school and all the way into high school, and that was a really great way of learning how to use the words that I have in my vocabulary, but also to be expressive. And I think that's one of the key things about being a public speaker, and a good public speaker is being able to be out there in front of everybody and feel comfortable, or at least as comfortable as you can be. So that's generally been my journey, is that I started very young doing sort of public speaking in school, learning speech and drama, and then I went to drama classes and drama club when I was in high school. So I spent a lot of time in the theater, and when you're in the theater you can't be shy. You have to be bold and you have to express yourself. And I'm also a musician, so I used to play the piano and then the saxophone, and doing concerts and playing in bands at school was a very big part of my education. So you had to sort of gain confidence that way. And you know, whether you're sort of hiding behind an instrument or being out there singing, I sang in the choir as well, it comes with the same level of expectation. And I had a mentor who taught me a few hints and tips when it came to public speaking in conferences and from the professional side of things, but I was able to lean on stuff that I'd learned when I was younger.
So let's dive right into the business of the day. Can you share with us some tips that helped you while you were grooming yourself, or some tips that you still use to stay confident? You just mentioned the fact that it never stops. There are times you still face a public gathering and you still have to deal with that anxiety.
Okay, so in terms of tips on how to become a good public speaker in a sort of professional setting, or even if it's just a little bit more informal, but you want to do it very confidently, there's a few things that you can do. There's no magic formula for it because everybody's different, but the things that have worked for me in the past have always been about trying to firstly start with dealing with your nerves. Everybody has nerves. So it's a question of how you get around those. Now, one of the key things that always works is breathing exercises. Being able to slow your heart rate down, get back into your body. You're not so much focused on what's happening in your head, because that's generally where a lot of the nervous tension comes from, is that you're overthinking things. So start to breathe a little slower, take deeper breaths, and then allow yourself to relax more. It's really about relaxation, because what you're trying to get to is a state where you are both relaxed but focused. You're not too relaxed where you just don't care about it. You want to care. You want to be able to feel a little bit of that excitement. But what you want to be able to do is also just use that and steer that in the right direction. Even if you want to pray beforehand, you can, because prayer is very much like meditation, and it allows you to sort of get into one single focus. So whatever you can do to just relax yourself, get into a good space, and then move forward. That's the first tip. The second tip really is about, more about focus. It has to do with what you're trying to achieve. Make sure that you know exactly what that is. So let's say, for instance, you're talking at a company function. They've asked you to introduce the CEO or the boss. It's not a very long speech, but obviously there's people that your colleagues are there, your workmates are there, and a couple of your friends. And so, you don't want to do a bad job. And the thing for me is understanding exactly what the task is. So the focus is not necessarily on yourself. Make sure you're presentable. Obviously, you always want to do that. But the other thing that you have to do is make sure you're focused on what you want to get across. So if your message is simple, that they just want you to, welcome everybody, say hello, this is how the day goes, make sure you've got your order of events done. And so you're focused on what you want to do. The message is the critical thing. So if it's just a sort of welcome, or you're emceeing a function and you have to get people on and off a stage, the main thing is always knowing what you're focused on. Don't worry too much about some of the other things that are happening around that. We get too caught up in all of the other activities, that happen in spaces, that we don't take the time to stay focused. The next tip I have is about making sure you know what your job is. And that really comes down to whether or not you're emceeing a function, whether or not you're just giving a speech, you could be reading a poem. It really is about knowing what your role is. And then once you know that, it makes it easier to say, okay, fine, I'm not taking care of the lighting or the microphones. You might have to, this could be your event, and you set up everything yourself. But the key thing is always being mindful on how you can do the best job possible. And that really is about putting you in the best space. Public speaking is really all about trying to get confidence. And once you're confident in knowing what you're doing, that's perfect. Now that goes on to my next tip, and that really is speak confidently. You don't have to have the biggest vocabulary in the world. What you have to do is have confidence in the words that you use. You don't necessarily want to repeat the same words over and over again. That's a critical thing. You want to be able to try and use all sorts of different words in your vocabulary, but you need to be able to just address everybody with a sense of owning your presence, knowing exactly who you are, knowing that you need to be confident in where you're standing, because sometimes what happens is that people can feel your nerves. They can feel you're uncertain about being in a space, and you want to be able to express that confidence to people. So saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, that's what your body's trying to put out there. And that comes down to body language too. So if we recap, we look at the relaxation. You're making sure that your body's not too nervous. You're in the right space. Then you're making sure that you're focused on the task at hand, the things that you need to get across. After that, you're then focusing on what your role is within this space. But then critically from there, it's your time to shine. They call on you to speak. You take a few deep breaths. You make sure you focus on what's important. And then you exude confidence. You talk with authority. It is stuff that you know about, even if it's just greeting people. Say, hello, welcome, how are you? So that's the kind of thing that I try to focus on. There's a couple more that I'll talk about. It's about making sure that you know exactly what your voice is. What is it that you want to use? Don't necessarily put on a voice. I'm not saying trying to talk like a cartoon character or a movie character or anything like that, but understanding exactly how you speak, how you express yourself to people. If you're a funny person, then lean into that a little bit, because it makes you a little bit more relaxed, and then it helps you feel more confident. If you're not necessarily too funny and you don't necessarily feel comfortable making jokes, then don't. It's important to try and stay in your lane, do the things that you do well. Too many people go out there and trying to be everything to everybody. You can't necessarily be that unless your skill set allows you to do those things. But if you're trying to, and you're starting out as a public speaker, the first thing you want to do is be very, very confident in what you're saying. And that comes from knowing exactly what you have to do, and also about being relaxed in that space. One of the things that we used to do in high school was we had to get up and read books. We had to read out loud in front of the class. And that was a really interesting thing that our teacher used to do, because often that really is about trying to express yourself. We spend a lot of our lives internally. We're always thinking. We're always spending time putting thought to our actions. But we don't necessarily spend a lot of time speaking to groups of people. And when you're getting into the practice of doing that, make sure you can do that on your own as well. So it might be worth running through whatever speech you need to on your own in front of a mirror, or even if you don't have a mirror in front of you, what you want to do is be able to just say, I want to practice, and practice makes perfect. So you could record your own videos and then play those back for yourself, so you can see exactly what you did right, where you think you need to work on some stuff, and then just getting comfortable with talking in front of people. It's important to understand that the reason you're doing this isn't a punishment. You're doing this because people have seen that you have the ability to speak, and they like the way you speak. Sometimes it is stuff that you're almost forced to do, if it's especially at a friend's function or a family function like that, and you might be a bit nervous about public speaking. It is a big fear for a lot of people, but there's a great way of dealing with that. And I'd suggest the deep breathing, even have a cup of tea beforehand, but make sure you shake out your nerves before you go on stage. Get mentally ready, get focused, and then speak about that. I deal with a lot of these things in my book, Competitive Edge, where I talk about getting game ready.
Cyrus, it's actually interesting to know that the anxiety never goes away. The most important thing is for you to know how to manage it. So I'm just going to go through some of the tips you mentioned. I'm here with my notepad, so I'm just going to read out some of the tips, some of the things you shared, so that you know that I was following you, because I'm also learning. So one of the things you mentioned is the fact that you have to stay relaxed as much as possible, and of course pray, meditate, whatever works for you, and then focus on what you're trying to achieve. This is a very important aspect for me, because if, for instance, you're the MC at an occasion and the celebrant is your friend, you want to concern yourself with other things, like ensuring that everyone gets food. You want to ensure that everything goes well, but it's also important to focus on that major function that you've been called to do, so that you don't lose focus and then get distracted. I really like that point. And also another thing I noted, speak confidently. Use different words in your vocabulary. I know I always emphasize this in many of my videos, that you have to have a rich bank of vocabulary. You can watch my videos. I'll link some of them up somewhere around the video, so that you can click the link and then go back to watch. I'll probably do another video on how to work on your vocabulary, getting more words into your vocabulary. So instead of saying angry, you use furious, you use livid. And then, very importantly, you mentioned the fact that people can feel your nerves. So that is one reason you need to work on it. Do not try to delve into an area that is not your forte. I remember there was a particular time I hosted an event, and then I tried to crack a joke. Lo and behold, I laughed at the joke alone, and heartbreaking, and then it can crash your confidence, the little confidence that you have managed to gather up. Some jokes are actually funny, but the fact that you don't have it in you, you don't have that sense of humor in you, and then you try to crack that particular joke, that same joke that someone like maybe Alibaba or basket mouth would crack, and then everyone will be rolling on the floor laughing. But you, because you don't have that sense of humor, you're not a comedian, and then you go because you have been told to MC an event, you now try to crack that same joke. Man, it will fall flat on your face. So the final one is record yourself in front of a mirror and also play it back to yourself. I always talk about this fact that you need to record yourself as often as possible. Okay guys, I hope that you've learned a lot in today's video. Thank you for educating us on how to become more confident when speaking, Cyrus.
Thank you.
Alright, that's it for today guys. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to watch my other videos right here. Please like, comment. I'd like to hear from you. What are those areas you've been struggling with when it comes to speaking in a public gathering or speaking with friends, colleagues, families? Let me know those challenges and we can deal with them together. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you next time. Bye.